right, guys, welcome to a brand new episode of SideQuest Podcast. Listen in and level up. I have a great episode for you today, but first, as always, let's get through the show notes. If you're not following the Facebook page, head over to Facebook, type SideQuest Fitness into the search bar, and like the page. There, you're going to get updates on podcast episodes, articles when they get posted, and you're going to get a brand new taco recipe every Tuesday for taco camp. Plus lots of other shenanigans and nerd talk throughout the week, so make sure you head over to Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram. My handle is SideQuestFM. If you want to see some cool videos and random stuff on Instagram as well, you can follow me on Instagram. Same handle, SideQuestFM. Or follow me on Snapchat, SideQuestFit. Follow me there. Send me your questions. I want to get all the questions from you, help you as much as I can on your fitness journey or your journey in life, whatever it may be. But head over to Snapchat, SideQuestFit. Follow me there. You get a little more personal, in-depth look at the shenanigans I get into throughout every day. But I do love getting questions from the community, so please send them out to me. If you have not left a review for the podcast, please head over to iTunes. If you're not listening on iTunes and you're listening on SoundCloud or Stitcher, leave a review there as well. When you leave reviews, it helps me move up the charts on the iTunes store so that more people can see and hear the amazing guests that I've had on and have on each and every single week. So make sure you head over there. And don't forget, if you haven't picked up your copy of the 7 Principles of Fat Loss, head over to sidequestfitness.com/7 principles, and you can pick up your copy of the 7 Principles of Fat Loss. These are the same 7 principles I follow each and every day and teach my clients to help them shred away more body fat, unlock heroic strength, and just look better naked. So if you want to unlock strength or just look better naked in the mirror, head over again, grab those 7 principles of fat loss, and start following those today. What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. So over the last few months, you have heard me talking about my online clients, and you've heard from a few of my online clients as well about what they've done on their fitness quest with me. With summer heading in, I am taking a few more clients on to help people get ready for summer, help you get ready for bikini season or swimsuit season, or maybe this is your first time. Maybe you've decided that that's it. You want to get in shape, and you need someone to help you with your journey. On your journey, you need a Gandalf and a Samwise to guide you as you head into Frodo. And I am your Gandalf and Samwise, all packed in to one. I am taking on a few more clients. If you are interested, head over to sidequestfitness.com/coach and check out the page. You can apply there. You can find out more about what coaching entails and also see some of the amazing transformations that my clients have had while working with me. So head over to sidequestfitness.com/coach and apply today. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I have an amazing guest for you today. You guys have heard him over the last couple of years, over the last year on our Coach's Corner episode quite a bit, but he's back on a solo episode. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Aadam&nbsp of physiqueonomics.com. Adam is one of the best fucking fitness writers in the game. Like, when he writes stuff, I literally feel like I write like a 4-year-old with crayons. That's how I feel. And what Adam does is so good. So you need to head over to physiqueonomics.com and check out his stuff today. But I'm going to shut up. I'm going to get into the episode so you guys can hear from Aadam&nbsp himself. Again, you can check him out at physiqueonomics.com. That's physiqueonomics.com.
Step up and you gotta get it fitness. Host Rob at the moment and the quest is you gotta check it and wreck it. You're breaking personal records and with the help of the guests you won't be guessing on the lessons. That's a +5 fierce. Got a low-key bamf right here. You wanna meet him, there's no better way to greet him than to strike a boss pose. Take a look into the mirror.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I have a great guest for you. My brother, he's finally back on the show. He's had a crazy start to 2017. He was in the States for a little while. Got to come visit. We put a little hold on Coach's Corner. But I'm going to break it up and bring all of the guys back on individually. And maybe we get together again. I don't know. Maybe we don't. But the one and the only the sexy Zayn-looking motherfucker that he is, Aadam Ali, welcome back to the show.
My man, how you doing, bro? Thank you for having me back.
Oh, dude, always, you're always welcome. We've been in a message group, a super secret message group where we're plotting our inevitable takeover of the world to make it 10 times more awesome than it already is. Fuck that, 100 times. We're gonna 100x this shit. Take that, Grant Cardone, whatever the fuck your name is. But we talk a lot in that group, and I've kind of missed getting to hop on the podcast and chat with you guys. And unfortunately, our epic road trip across America to San Diego did not happen, though.
Yeah, that was my bad.
No,
actually, it was a lot of things. I think that a lot of things just kind of amalgamated into like
a lot of shit at once. However, I will say I am glad that Nick and I flew back, because after a whole weekend at like 2 summits and 2 different biz things, it's like, oh God, we would have to drive back all the way across the country by ourselves. And like,
yeah, dude, you know what? Next year, I'm not even going to like plan anything. I'm just going to turn up. Just like, what up, guys?
I like it. So Adam, what have you been up to, man?
Oh, dude, obviously, as you know, like I've mentioned it in the message box and stuff, in our super secret message group. I've just really been focusing on just writing and creating content, and just trying to do some dope shit, man, with like the stuff that I want to write about for economics. And so obviously I haven't been online as much. Like I've been trying to really, overcome that sort of, I know the word addiction has like really negative connotations and stuff, but I mean, with social media and stuff, I think that it was getting to a point where I was on social media in the guise of like, marketing, when, I'm doing work when I wasn't really, I was just fucking around. So I'm just trying to take some time away from constantly being online and just trying to get more work done, and just create more content, man. Just create more long form content that I enjoy creating, basically. So the interesting thing about you, Adam, is you like your Facebook posts will tend to be like at most maybe 1,000 words. Usually they're very short and pithy. Your Instagram as well. I love all of that. But your blog posts are really effing long. And I know for a long time people were like, oh, you want to keep it short, give them the advice, do this thing. But you've done a really good job of building a brand and a following that just fucking goes ape shit for your content. How do you, like, as a writer, how do you know when enough is enough and when you need to pull back and really create the best writing? Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing question. I know we've had this conversation several times, yourself, Tanner, Nick, and I, and we've spoken about this. And I remember when I first began Economics, people were like, hey man, look, no one reads long form content anymore, because I sort of had an idea of what I wanted to write. And I mean, obviously I've been inspired by people like John Romanello, Mark Manson, Tim Urban's Wait But Why, and all these 3 guys, they tend to write pretty long form content. And at the same time, it's very entertaining, very engaging, and it's just really enjoyable to read. So when I wanted to, start writing about fitness and whatnot, my thing was just to write really good content that went into detail about a lot of things, and most importantly, make it engaging. And I remember when I was starting out, people would say to me, hey man, look, like long form's dead now. YouTube's come out, people want to watch videos, no one wants to read long content anymore. And I disagreed. Firstly, because I saw people like, Wait But Why getting 100,000 shares on extremely long form content. But at the same time, something that Tim Ferriss said, which really resonated with me, was he said, there's all this talk about long form content being dead, which is bullshit, because if long form content was dead, books wouldn't exist anymore. So, which I was like, exactly. And then the other thing that he said, which was pretty salient, he said, look, long form content isn't dead. He said, shit, long form content is dead. And he said, it doesn't matter if it's long form or it's short form or whatever the case is. If the quality of the content is poor, regardless of the medium, people aren't going to resonate with it. People aren't going to read it or listen to or watch it, regardless of, if it's a video or it's a podcast or if it's a book or it's an article. And that's why, for me, it was just a case of creating content which was, really long. It's not intentional, but it's just that I like to get quite in depth with the things I write about, and trying to cover it as much as possible. So, fortunately, I've just stuck with my guns, even when other people were telling me not to do that. And it's worked out. It's worked out quite well.
Dude, it's worked out fantastic for you. I mean, number one, and you know this because I've told you a million times. Every time you post something new, I'm just like, God damn it! I have to up my fucking game. This motherfucker is so good. It's just like 2 paragraphs, and I'm like, I'm sucked in. I'm like, yes, I'm into this. I don't give a shit if it's 8,000 words. I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
It's so good, and your personality comes out. So, Adam, for you, and this is, I think, something that a lot of writers, especially being new, and I had a conversation with my wife the other night. I said something about, someone that I had read, and I was like, man, they're new, but they're really good with getting you engaged at what they're doing. If I go back and read my old shit, I want to hide it. I don't want anyone to see that stuff. But what really changed the writing game for you, in terms of where you are now versus where you were, say, 2 years ago when you started?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the biggest thing for me was feedback. I'm going to break this down to two things that I find have really made a difference to me. Firstly, it's the feedback from my readers. So to give you an example, and to obviously, make that a bit more tangible, when I published my article last year, the 6 motherfucking thousand words, you're not losing fat because you're eating too damn much. That was, I think, one of the longest articles I've written to date, and it was 6,300 words. And when I was writing that, I was just really fucking pissed off because there was all this bullshit about starvation mode and metabolic damage, and people saying, "Oh, I am eating my, I'm not overeating. I know I'm being diligent with my calorie intake, but I'm still not losing fat." And then I just got so annoyed with the whole sort of all these comments that I was reading online, that I just wrote that piece. And then I remember the first line was something like. I can't remember. It was quite aggressive, and it wasn't overly aggressive into a point where it was almost resentful, but it was kind of that borderline where it's kind of funny, but you can kind of tell this guy's pissed off a little bit. And then I remember one of the lines was something like, "I don't care if you're pissed off at me because I'm telling you what you don't want to hear, but you're eating too much." And people really resonated with that. And the feedback that I had from a lot of people and the emails I received and the comments were, it felt like a breath of fresh air, just the no bullshit approach and you just being real with the fact how people are overeating and all this other stuff. And so that was one thing. And I think the second thing was just not being afraid to experiment and just be myself more. So back in 2015, or when I first started Physiconomics, and I was writing stuff, and my personality was there a little bit, but I was still quite dubious to swear or just really be myself. And I feel that kind of held me back from really just writing the way I want. And I remember, to give you an example of what I mean, Mark Manson says, you should write for sound. So sometimes he'll say something which may not be, grammatically correct, or it may look wrong in writing, but when someone reads it, it sounds funny or it sounds good. Yeah. And I think that's been great advice that I've taken on board. It's sometimes I'll say something which may not be grammatically correct, but when you read it, it's kind of funny. It sounds good. And I'll just use that. I'll use that line. And again, I think so going back to the point, also being more liberal with my use of graphics and illustrations, because even if you see my first articles, I was using illustrations a little bit, but it was very like, I'm not sure if I should do this. You know, no one else is doing it in the industry. I don't know if I should do it. You know, what are people going to think? But then I was like, you know what, fuck it. And I just started just using illustrations to a point where sometimes I would just omit an entire section of text with just like a comic strip or an illustration to make that point. And that really resonated with people as well. So, so I think the two things that have really made a massive difference is just, firstly, just being myself and not being afraid to try things, even if it's not been done so far. And secondly, just sort of experimenting with things and then hearing feedback from people and then adjusting depending on the feedback.
Yeah, I have to say, dude, I love, and I'm assuming, just so listeners know, you do all of your drawings, correct?
Yeah.
All the
they're all mine, yeah.
Goddamn, so fucking talented. I hate you. my shit would be like stick figures if I did it. But no, like all that stuff is really, really cool. And it shows who you are. And that comes across. What I've always enjoyed about your stuff, Adam, is just the engagement you get out of Facebook. Like you literally could put up 12 words and something really just short, like, and just right to the point. And you have like 30, 40, 60 comments. And I'm like, what? I don't even get this. How do you feel that your social media, like in the age of social media, so any fitness people anyone listening for social media in and of itself, like do you feel you're the same in social media versus your blog posts, or is there a little different take you try to take with both?
No, I mean, I just, in terms of like social media, so I've always seen like Facebook, I'll come to Instagram in a second because that's a bit of a different monster, so to speak. But in terms of like Facebook, because it's still very text heavy and it's something that's very, very close to me, and what I like to do, I just Facebook's more like it's anything I'm thinking of at the moment, any sort of thoughts I've had or anything I want to share. It doesn't have to actually be anything sort of structured. It's more just like a mini blog or like a micro blog where I just sort of put up, quick thoughts or sort of short to medium length ideas that I have. That's why I can post on Facebook anywhere between 1 to 3 times a day, depending on, how much I have to say or what I'm thinking about. And then my blog posts, again, are just more... Sometimes what will happen is, actually, this is something that Tanner made me realize when I was out in New York and staying with him, because I've got a very strong perfectionist streak, which can be both a good thing and a negative thing as well. But so because of that perfectionist streak, I feel that if it's a blog post, I don't know what it is about it being on your blog, because I've always seen Physique Economics or my website as like, so the entire website's like one big book, and every single article that I publish on into that book is like one chapter. So because I've set this really high sort of standard for what I expect my content to be like on the website, that perfectionist streak inside me sort of, comes in a lot more. And every time every time I start writing something which I want to maybe be a Facebook post, just a short thought, it might just end up becoming a full article because there's so much to have to say now. So Facebook just works as like just quick thoughts. I'm trying to be entertaining, but not for the sake of trying to be entertaining. It's just me being me, and like anything I think of, I'll just post it. And with my blog, the actual website, I try and be a lot more articulated. The style and the tone is similar across, both those formats, but the blog is just a bit more long form, a bit more in depth. And then with Instagram is very like, I tend to just be very eclectic with what I post on Instagram. So sometimes it will just be like some training footage. Sometimes it will just be like some thoughts I'm having. So, 1 or 2 sentences from something that I've written, and then expanding on that in the caption, the caption section. So yeah, I think that answers your question.
Yeah,
maybe didn't.
No. I like to look at them, and this is just from me personally. I've sort of just been having fun with Instagram and sort of trying to write like shorter copy, but like more, I don't know, like doing something different. Like, I could do all those Instagram icon things that everyone is doing, but I'm also like,
oh, that shit pisses me off, man.
Here's the thing. It's what's interesting, Adam, is my wife has pointed this out to me. She's like, every time you try and copy something that everyone else does, it never works. So just do you, just be you. And I think that's something that's hard for a lot of people to sort of realize. And we sort of talked about that with you. Where do you struggle right now being yourself when it comes to either like being a coach, when it comes to you as a writer, or just like, on social?
So I think the thing that I struggle with is it is a bit of that, it's like that, well, this thing seems to be working. Maybe I should try that. Like the whole, when everyone starts doing those like little crosses and ticks and the little Instagram fitness memes, whatever you want to call it. And then sometimes they'll have like those videos with the little, the black strip and the captions. And then it's always like a bit of a challenge between trying to do what's already working, and obviously everyone's doing it. So the audience is already accustomed to that, and they're going to be a lot more receptive if you start doing it, because it's, it's just normal, it's something you're used to, or trying to just be yourself and just doing something different that people aren't accustomed to, which may not get as much traction initially, but as long as it's good quality, and you've got that sort of intent of actually trying to help people, in whatever case, if that's trying to entertain people, drop some knowledge or whatever the case is, it should hopefully do well. So yeah, I mean, everyone's had that struggle of like, do I do what everyone else is doing, or do I just try to just do my own thing? So yeah.
All right. How do you see that? So, because I've seen a lot of stuff you posted, and you have many. You talk about keto isn't always the answer. You did a great write up on keto, by the way, that experiment that you did last year, and I'll link that in the show notes as well. So make sure you head over to sidequestfitness.com/Aadam Ali returns, and that's Adam with 2 A's, by the way. It's Adam. He was just so awesome, and he wanted to be the first kid in class in alphabetical order. That's really what it was.
Right.
He put that extra A there. No, that's actually his legal name. He has 2 A's. But Adam Ali returns, sidequestfitness.com. And you can find that there. So I'll have that link so you can pick up that keto book. And it's really interesting to read and go through that. But you've talked before about, keto isn't like this end all be all answer. And, low fat isn't the end all be all answer. And paleo isn't the end, like there are tools in your toolbox. And I think that's the interesting thing with social, that these are all tools that you can use and what you want to go with. For you, Adam, like what has been the one tool that you've really struggled with, as a coach in developing and sort of pushing on, or not pushing, but like using with other people?
I think that's interesting.
Because where I was thinking, where I'm sort of coming from this, is that like we all talk about strength training. We love strength training. But cardio is a tool. You can use it. Yoga is a tool. You can use it. And where I am with many of my clients is like, if you want to do it as active recovery, do those things. Do those things that you love to do and you really enjoy doing it. Not because you're trying to burn calories, but because it makes you feel good.
I think the biggest one is it's not even anything, exercise related. It's more of a mentality thing. I think that it's just about patience, because you have I have clients who will sign up and they'll not be getting results, 3, 4, 5 weeks in, and they'll start to get very like stressed out about it. And you can tell because they'll email you, and the way they, excessive use of exclamation marks and all this other stuff. It's like, you need to calm down, because the more you stress over it, the more you're going to just feel bad. So I think the biggest thing is just try to tell people that, look, I know you've got these really crazy expectations of how fast you can lose fat, but your body doesn't give a fuck about how fast you want to lose fat.
Yep.
Like, it's going to lose fat when it loses fat. You just need to stick to what you need to do. And in time, the fat loss will come. But see, the thing is, it's also because people, it's like, because people are so, they're obviously paying for the service. They feel like, because it's not like, you purchase something and you have the result right away. If you went out and brought an iPhone, you have that iPhone right there. So you know that you've got your money's worth, sort of thing. With coaching, because the results take a lot, you're working with a a biological being. So it's going to take time for those results to come in. And the hardest part is just trying to tell people that, look, you need to calm the fuck down and just be patient. And that's the hardest part, I think.
Dude, I think that's a huge tool that most people are like, fuck that tool. That's the dumbest tool ever. And you're like, no, it's the tool that actually works. You have to be very patient. Mm-hmm. Where are you impatient, Adam?
In terms of like myself?
Yeah, like where are areas that you need to improve on your patience?
Oh, dude, so many areas. I think so we could be here all day. The biggest one for me is I get angry very quickly. Like I have a terribly short temper, and sometimes I can be very hot-headed in terms of like someone may make a comment, whereas there's no ill intent behind that comment, but I take it the wrong way. So I react very aggressively when there's no need to be. So that's something that I have to, be very conscious of, just like getting better at just anger management and not getting pissed off all the time. So yeah, that's the biggest one for me. Like just calming the fuck down sometimes.
I can see that. I can see that knowing you a little bit.
Yeah. I was gonna say you know that anyway.
Yeah. No. I know. I'm like chill, bro. Think stoic. Gotta be exactly. Stoic right here. Be a little more stoic.
Yeah.
But I think that's important for like. It's something that I really do, and maybe I don't talk about my own mistakes enough. God, there are so many. But I think that's just something that I still wonder that so many people think that, oh, you guys are you're so good, you're perfect. And I'll be like, no, I know a ton of fitness people who like, they work out and they do a lot of things that you probably wouldn't think that they do. Like we all sort of struggle, but we've also learned throughout this process, because it is a process, that, okay, so we had a shitty day where we ate half a pizza or a whole pizza or a pizza and a half, that like we just get back on it tomorrow. We don't beat ourselves up, which I think is a hard thing to do as writers as well, because you put your heart and soul into something and like maybe 3 people read it and like you're just so mad and upset.
And dude, it's that's an amazing point, because like right now I'm working on my next article, and it's like, even just on a very like a micro level, like I'm struggling with one section which is really pissing me off right now. But it's like this happens to me in every article. Like there'll be one section which I'm not happy with, but the more I think about how to improve it or what I need to do, the more pissed off I get, and then it just turns into like this vicious cycle. And then after that, I'll leave it for a little while. I'll come back and I've just like, your subconscious mind just presents the solution to you. You sort it out, you publish it, and that's it. But then that it happens it's going to happen every time you write something. You're not going to be happy with everything you write. There's have to be amendments. You have to edit it. But every time you sit down to write and you get to that one point that is just breaking your balls, you end up in that same sort of like that cycle of like just getting annoyed or getting angry, which I think exactly what happens with people on their fitness journey. It's like, even with trainers, like we know that it's not going to be 100% perfect. We're going to fall off. But I think the difference between trainers and people who've done it for a while is that they know that it's not the end of the world, because they know that it's, the 1 day off diet or a week even isn't going to derail years of hard work that you put in. Which is, I think, the difference between someone like ourselves and someone who may just be starting or isn't so entrenched in the industry. Because what happens with these people is they'll be like, oh shit, I just ate pizza. Like what? Like 2 slices of pizza, my diet's ruined. Fuck it. And then it turns into like this, all out buffet of just like fuckery, where it's just like, just eat everything and it just messes everything up. So I think it's just like that, what you said about just knowing that, you're human, you're going to mess up, and just getting back on the proverbial dieting horse.
You write a lot about the sort of mental obstacles and hurdles that we all have to sort of overcome. And obviously, like, you're completely changing your diet. You have to overcome those things. If you're writing, you have to overcome your own mental obstacles, because you're like, oh, I have this idea. I want it to do this. And then you start writing it and it doesn't look that way. And then you get mad and, as you mentioned, and you walk away, you come back and it's better. What for you, and what have you noticed as a coach? And we'll get away from fitness in a minute. I'm trying really not to make this entire conversation and just be like about Jordan Peterson, because I really just jump into JP. But we'll go there in a minute. But like, what have you noticed in the years that you've worked with clients? And I have my own opinions on this. Like, what have you noticed is like the biggest mental hurdle that like really just gets in the way that people can't get over? And then once they do, like, they're like, oh my God, this is so much easier now.
I think the biggest thing is just starting. And that's anything. Like as a writer yourself, you'll know that when you're staring at that blank page, and even if you have the article sort of mapped out in your head, you can't get yourself to write that first line. And obviously you can, but it takes time and it's fucking hard to get the initial, because you're trying to, you're, especially someone like me, because of my perfectionism, my brain has to have, like, the way that I interpret the situation is I have to write the perfect sentence. The first word has to be perfect, and that has to be followed by the next perfect word. It has to turn into the perfect sentence, which has to become the perfect paragraph, and then that has to become the perfect article. If that doesn't happen, if I'm not happy with any of that in that sequence, I just get annoyed and I just can't get the words from my head, even though I know what I want to write about, and onto the screen or onto paper. And the issue is inertia. Like, going back to like Newton's law of an object in motion stays in motion. But it's that point between not doing anything and doing something that's the hardest part, because you're trying to break inertia. And inertia is the hardest thing to break. So if you're trying to write that first line, or you're trying to start your new diet or your training program, the hardest part is breaking inertia. And what you realize is once you do that one small thing, that's it. Then you're like, cool, I got this, and you keep going. So I think that's the hardest thing. I personally know it, that it's that starting, that breaking that initial inertia is the hardest thing for people. And once you've broken that inertia, you get into a groove and you're good to go then.
Okay, so first off, thank you. I just literally pulled my phone to my side, pulled up my notes, and wrote down an idea for something, for some writing at some point, because I agree. I think on the writing side for me, there was a day, God, like maybe 2 weeks ago. Like, being here in New York is amazing. Mark Fisher Fitness is the most magical place I've ever been, but I've just been so exhausted mentally that I would get home and 200 words is like all I could write. And I felt like I was kind of letting myself down. Like I wasn't living up to my potential. It was like, no, I got to push through this. No, no, I'm better than this. And I'm sitting there one day and I couldn't think of anything. I'm staring at that blank screen. I take a picture of it on my phone and then just start typing something on Instagram about this blank screen and what I'm staring at. And I realized, oh shit, I just wrote something. Like I wrote something that is painful. So you definitely just inspired something with what you said about breaking inertia. But getting started, I think, is the toughest thing for a lot of people to do, because you stare at that dumbbell, you stare at MyFitnessPal, you stare at your fridge, and you think, "Oh God, what do I eat? I don't know. I have all these choices." And stepping away from that is hard to do. It is hard to break the inertia from where you've been going. You've been revolving around a world of shit. Now, how do you get out of this world of shit? Well, that gravity is still pulling you in.
I think there's also, I'm not sure if narcissism is the right word here, but what I personally know from my experiences is that I tend to, like if I'm writing an article, I tend to put that article up on a pedestal. So, and then what happens is once you put the article onto a pedestal, it's like, you've turned it into this massive thing and you have to live up to this arbitrary expectation that you've set. So I have to write the best article ever. And it goes back to what Ryan Holiday says about, not just stop thinking you're the shit. Like, you're just, there's been so many talented or gifted or hardworking kids who've been here before you, and they're going to be another million that are going to come after you. The difference isn't talent or ambition or any of that stuff. The difference is humility and just doing the work. And I think that's the thing personally from what I've seen is when I remind myself of that, and I remind myself, look, just get back to doing the work. Like, it doesn't matter because the reason why I use the word narcissism was because, you want to create like the best thing that you can create, which is a natural tendency for anyone who creates anything really. Like, you want to create the best thing that you can create. And obviously as a byproduct of that, that's going to also cause some anxiety, which is going to stop you from starting, which is why the Ryan Holiday quote is just so salient to me. And every time that this situation occurs, I just remind myself of that quote, that look, you just need to take that article off the pedestal and just get back to work, because that's all that really matters. So, yeah.
Oh, so true. Aadam, I love you. I love you.
Thank you.
Because it is I think it is a struggle, because you want, you want to write the most beautiful thing you could ever write, and you want it to be, I think for a lot of us, I'm going to say it for a lot of us. So a lot of you guys that are listening, and I will try and apply this to fitness as well for those who are not like writers, internet entrepreneurs, or coaches. In the world of like writing content, you want to like write that piece, that one thing that like all of a sudden, boom, your fucking business explodes, and it's like, I'm done. Like, I did it all. Like, this thing completely changed everything for me. Or you want to have that one workout where like you lift the weights and you go home and you wake up the next morning and you're like, I am shredded. Yes.
Yeah, dude, that's an amazing point. And I think I wrote about this a while back, and what the analogy that I used was fitness related. It was that people sort of think that they're going to train hard, they're going to eat well, and then one day, some day off in the future, they're going to wake up and it's going to be like, quote unquote, fat loss day, where they're just going to wake up and they're going to be shredded. But really what happens is they have to put in that work every single day for like months. And then, even then, they're like, I'm not sure if I'm seeing changes. And it's this whole thing of like, even with like business or anything, it's like, you just have to keep chipping away at whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah. And eventually it turns into this, it's like, this turns into this, like what Malcolm Gladwell calls the tipping point.
Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, I just thought of like, you wanted to bake cupcakes and you have all the ingredients, and you're like, make the cupcakes, and the ingredients just sit there, and you're like, no, where are the cupcakes? Yeah. No, you got to fucking make the recipe.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to put the work in. Cool. So I guess we'll sort of transition a little bit to some JP shit, and we'll talk about it. Now, guys, if you don't know who Jordan Peterson is, he's a social psychologist out of the University of Toronto. And he talks a lot about the hero's journey, fighting your demons, chaos and order. A lot of stuff that Adam and myself and Tanner and Nick really love, because we all grew up as fucking superhero fans, and that's really what superheroes are. They're modern myths. Yep. So he talks a lot about those things. Adam, in what you've sort of discovered and learned in watching his talks and his lectures, what for you has been the biggest takeaway that you've taken away from JP's stuff that you've applied to your life and seen a positive result from?
The biggest thing I would say is, and again, this is something that he was obviously influenced by, like Carl Jung, but the whole, there's virtue in suffering, in terms of like, what Carl Jung says, that what you most want lies where you least want to look, or you least want to go. And I think that's just like encapsulates life just perfectly in like one sentence. And it applies to everything. Like, if you want to lose fat, you're going to have to go and do things which you might not be comfortable with. You might not want to eat less food. You might not want to exercise. If you want to start a business, you might not want to do some of the things that come, by way of that. And this is why I take issue with a lot of the this new age modern days of, the motivational memes and motivational quotes, because my issue isn't so much with the quotes themselves, because as Nick said, rightly said in our group chat, that everyone has quotes that light a fire light a fire under their arse. I think it was Tanner who said that, and that's true. But my issue with a lot of these motivational quotes is they paint this picture that everything's perfect, like everything's gonna be fine. But it's like, no, sometimes it's not going to be fine. Sometimes you might not be able to do what you need to do. Sometimes, as Jordan Peterson says, you go to fight the dragon and the dragon eats you. But that's exactly why you should do anything that you want to do, because there's virtue in that process, virtue in suffering. That's the biggest one for me.
Dude, I agree with that so much. I am a big believer. It's why it sounds weird, masochistic, because to be like, yeah, I like suffering, like I like pain.
Yeah.
It sucks in the moment, but I know that like being in that pain, and I'm not talking like a physical pain. And even like the physical pain and like the DOMS, like delayed onset muscle soreness, like that's a good pain. Like obviously if you're in pain and you can't walk, like go to a fucking doctor, like there's some shit going on. And even in that sense, sort of mentally, like if you've really got some shit going on, go see someone, get some help, talk to someone. But just that like pain is going to tell you a truth. It is the harbinger to a truth that is coming in your life. But most of us are so afraid of being uncomfortable that we will run from that. And like you said, like with fat loss, like, hey, you know what? You want to lose fat? Cool. Guess what? You're going to have to deal with being hungry. And I'm not talking like you were so hungry you haven't eaten anything in weeks, but you're going to deal with a little hunger. And if you want to get to where you want to be because you want to feel better and look better naked, then you have to deal with that. If you're not willing to deal with that, then you got to stop bitching about how you're fat and overweight and you want to lose weight. You have to realize there's going to be some pain and suffering to what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like you said, it's not intended in a way of like a masochistic, like you enjoy pain and that sort of thing. Yeah. It's just it's more of just like, it's like what again going back to Jordan Peterson, where he says that just speak the truth, like speak your truth and because that's the best weapon that you have in a time of chaos. And that's essentially what I think it is. It's like people in the fitness industry or any industry, they tell you this whole thing of like effortless fat loss or effortless, make X amount of money overnight or within a week or whatever the case is. And it's like, they keep selling you these like fantasies, which sound sexy and they appeal to us because, they appeal to the reptilian brain within us. But the truth is that a lot of it is just hard fucking work, man, and it sucks. Like, there's nothing sexy about fat loss. Sure, the end result is when you're shredded and you have abs and whatever. That's cool, but that whole process makes up only like 5 or 10%. The rest of it is going to be it's a struggle, and that's exactly why you should do it, because it's going to make you a better person. Like anytime anyone's become a better person, you don't like. Weight training is a great metaphor for this. The only way you're going to grow muscle is if you lift a load that's heavier than your body's accustomed to. And, that's the only way that you grow muscle. That's the only way that you get bigger. Same thing in life. It's like the only way that you're going to become a more developed, resilient person is through doing things which may be very uncomfortable. But it's only after doing those things that you become, who you really want to be.
So, Adam, what have you done recently that's made you really uncomfortable that either you've grown from or are in the process of growing from?
Well, I'm not sure. This wasn't recently, but this was back when I was in New York, because I'm obviously very I like to keep myself to myself. So having to go out and actually socialize, and that was very uncomfortable for me, which sounds really weird, but and it's not that I wouldn't say I'm antisocial or anything, but I kind of am. But it's, so I just like kind of keeping myself to myself. I don't like things which are too I don't so I like some order, like this. I don't like too much chaos, which is obviously antithetical to what we're just talking about. But that was obviously a really growing. I've spoken to this about with Tanner as well, and it was that was something that really helped me. It's I was uncomfortable that whole night, but it was something that I did, and I was a better person for it.
Cool, awesome. So for those who don't know, Adam came to New York for the first time a few months ago. What was your New York experience like? What did you?
Dude, I love New York, man. Like, yeah, like I said, I mean, I think it was good, obviously, because we have people there that we know, so it wasn't like me just randomly walking around and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I posted on my Facebook page when I was out there, it's like it seems like it's very similar to London, but it's a lot more grittier, which I love. And like, yeah, I mean, I love New York, man. It's very me.
All right. I like that. That's cool. Man, now I don't even. What do you think of Guardians? So we'll get into a little nerd talk. I loved Guardians because I feel like there's a whole lot of like dive deep into your ego, like go to the hell to find the treasure that you seek. There's a whole lot of like things I really enjoyed about it. What do you think of Guardians?
I loved it. That's interesting because I didn't enjoy the first one, which I know a lot of people did, but I didn't actually enjoy the first one, so I was a bit dubious about going to watch it. I don't know if I was going to enjoy it, but I really liked it, man. I felt like there was a lot of. I think, and the reason why I enjoyed it was because, like you said, there was a lot of that. The mythological elements were there, and you could tell they were there. Like, sort of. Even like, what's the thing that Jordan Peterson says about you have to face the father and you have to rescue the father or something, and that's essentially what happened in that film. But again, it was more like the father figure in this film in Guardians of the Galaxy was more like the tyrant king.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought was interesting. Like, there's a lot of the concepts were interesting, and again, you had like the two sisters who were like trying to. They were obviously, there was that conflict between them, and then you realize why there was that conflict between them. I'm trying to keep it very so I don't spoil it for anyone. So,
I mean, it's been out for like 2 weeks now, almost 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks by the time this goes up. So, like, if you haven't seen it and you're listening to this, then you can turn the volume down. We're going to talk about it. Come back to this part when you see the movie. No, I think that's what I really enjoyed. Being the having the insight into the comics that I understand, Ego the Living Planet has actually kind of an important role in a very early Thanos storyline. And I wrote about this in my Thanos article, where Ego basically breaks down Adam Warlock and forces him to face his own inner demons. And that's essentially what happens in this, is that Star-Lord has to go and fight his father. And if you look at the hero's journey, there is that redemption with the father, which we see with Luke. Luke had to face his own father. He had to face what he was and who he could become. But I think that applies to a lot of things that I've noticed with a lot of guys that I've been working with recently is, it's for so long we're like running away from this one thing, but that's the one thing you need to face. And like, you really have to dive deep and go into the deep inner parts of yourself before you can discover your own hero and battle those things. I really enjoyed it. I just hope Spider-Man doesn't suck. That's my only hope.
Spider-Man's like one of my favorite.
Yeah,
one of my favorite superheroes. So, but I mean, I don't know, man. I think that because Marvel's back in control, sort of. I think they'll do a good job, man.
Yeah, I think it will be fine. I'm really interested to see what happens because here's my prediction, because I was pretty much right a few years ago when I. So this isn't the first time I've ever had a blog website. I had one for a long time where I tried to do video games and sports together, and then that didn't pan out because it was supposed to be me and like 4 friends. But I wrote an article and I was like, look, I'm going to tell you right now, and this was right after the first Avengers, like they're going to go for a Civil War storyline, which they kind of did. They did their own thing.
Yeah.
And I think what's going to happen in the Thanos one is Cap, Iron Man, Thor, probably Hulk, more than likely. All the ones we know are going to be dead. Maybe there's 1 or 2 that survive. And then the new Avengers are probably going to be Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, Black Panther. The Guardians are going to do their own thing. But I think that like all the people we've grown up with in this last like decade and, or whatever, They're gonna be dead. They're done,
dude.
They're
man, that would be crazy if they do that. Like, I don't know how I would feel.
I think it'd be amazing because you're building up all these other characters to come up that they're going to introduce that I think would work really well. They've done it in the comics and they're trying to stick to the comics in some ways. But the new Avengers would be really cool because what they could also do, and I kind of thought this is what they were going to do when Marvel was like, Thor is now a woman. And I was like, well, they hired Natalie Portman. If this was a part of the plan from the get-go, like Natalie Portman is going to become the next Thor, which I think could be really cool.
It'll be interesting. I mean, I think it'll be a good way. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure how I would feel if they killed off like Tony Stark and everyone. But yeah, I mean, let's see what happens, man. Like, it'll suck, but I'll get over it.
Yeah. So I know you were a big. Like a year ago, we were on and talking about Batman versus Superman, and you said the director's cut was actually better and made more sense. What are your thoughts on Justice League? Are you excited? Or are you a little?
Dude, I'm just like super pumped for like every single superhero movie that's coming out, like ever. But like I'm really looking forward to Justice League. The thing that I don't know, this again, it's just rumors, and this was Zack Snyder apparently said, like, a lot of people were complaining about the dark tone of Batman and Superman, which was like, what the fuck is Batman? It's supposed to be dark. So they're trying to make it a bit more Marvel-y and some of that humor sort of came across in the trailer, which I think is fine for someone like Flash because that's his sort of personality, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm super pumped, even for like Wonder Woman, which is almost out. It's out like June 2nd. I'm just June the 1st, even whatever. But I'm really looking forward to Justice League. I think it will be interesting to see how it compares. And again, this is it's an inevitable comparison to like Avengers. But it'll be interesting to see the sort of route they go down. And more importantly, I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with Superman because there's rumors about it'll be more similar to like the storyline of the death of Superman. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes back like the black suit and what happens with that.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I feel like what Marvel has kind of, if they plan on killing all the Avengers and everyone else and going into like phase 4, it allows them to sort of recreate storylines a little bit and do some new stuff. And I wonder if DC is doing the same thing. Because in the 80s, they had the like, oh God, I don't even remember the name. I can't remember the name of the event, but it was like Shattered Earth. It was like the where they had like everyone come together in like these different like planes of existences, and they like sort of killed off a bunch of old characters to try and make the storylines make more sense. And bring everything together. And I know there were some rumors that is sort of what they hinted at in Batman versus Superman, like in some of the dream sequences. So that would be kind of cool if that's what they did. Especially if you had like different Batmans. I think that would be kind of interesting. Or at least them touch on that. But I don't know. We'll see. So Adam, is there anything else besides those that you're sort of nerding out on right now? Like books, podcasts, exercise routines, something that you're like really, really nerding out on.
I've really been enjoying. I just finished it recently, but like the I Am Pilgrim, it's a thriller. It's a book, which was really, really good. Podcasts, I just haven't really listened to those many podcasts recently. That's pretty much it, man. Like,
how many books do you average a month? Because I know you're
at the moment, I mean, like last month I did about 12.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was. But this month I've been focused on like doing a lot of research for this article and just like writing and getting pissed off and then not writing and then brooding. So I haven't read that much. I think I'm down 3 or 4 books down so far. but yeah, I mean, I haven't been, my reading's been a bit slacking recently just because I've been so focused on this article and stuff.
All right, so I gotta ask, so you can give us a little taste of what is this article about? Because I'm intrigued now.
So it's really just so you know how calories in, calories out debate?
Yes.
So it's basically a look at that in more detail. So explaining why it's not as simple as calories in, calories out, and why all the factors that make it not so simple. And then also explaining, however, even though there's all these factors and it's not an exact 100% efficient process, you should still be tracking your calories because of these reasons. And also looking at the bit that the reason why I keep talking about the bit that's pissing me off is I've essentially documented the history of the calorie from like Hippocrates to James Joule down to like Wilbur Atwater. So just trying to get all of those sequences in place and all the illustrations that go with it, it's just been a bit of a pain in the arse to get that sorted out. So yeah, that's pretty much what that article's looking at.
Dude, I love that you're like going deep into the history of the calorie to understand why we're obsessed with it, why it matters, why it kind of does and doesn't, like why all these factors. I think that's a really important thing. The factors that do and don't, because it is very easy to be like, okay, you need to eat 2,000 calories a day, and you're gonna with your lean body mass you're gonna burn this much. With your exercise you're gonna have this much. And then, like, maybe you've got some NEAT, which I'm not really going to tell you about. I'm just going to hope that maybe you do a little extra walking or, have some sex or jerk off 3 or 4 times a day and get some extra of,
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly. I mean, the biggest thing is I think that people just it's like your body isn't a machine, and you can do everything, try and be perfect with everything and try and micromanage everything, but it's still going to respond how it wants to respond. So really, it's just like looking at both sides of the argument and not being biased towards, say, okay, look, the people that are saying, because essentially both camps, the people who say that calories don't matter or it's not only about calories, and the people that say, oh, it's calories and calories the most important thing. It's like, yeah, you both are saying the same thing, but you are saying it just differently.
Right.
It's like, because essentially all it comes down to is, look, calories matter, but so does food. Other things that go into it in terms of what sort of factors affect calories out and what factors affect calories in. Like you can eat 300 calories worth of food, but your body by the time it gets to a point where you can use that food, it's not going to be 300 calories. So your body isn't that efficient at digestion and using the calories that you give it. And then it's like, okay, if that's the case, then there's arguments of like, okay, well, if people are losing weight just eating Twinkies and McDonald's, then why should we eat healthfully? It's like if people can get healthy and they can improve their blood markers and, their health just eating Twinkies and chocolate bars and like McDonald's, it's like, okay, then why do we have to eat healthy? And then it's like, okay, this is why you should be eating healthy. So it's very like almost a nuanced article looking at both sides of the argument and then sort of coming to a conclusion saying, okay, look, this is what you should be doing. This is what matters. And this is why, it's not as simple as calories in, calories out, but it kind of is. And this is why you should be, tracking your calories or paying attention or at least being calorie aware.
How do you, we've only got a few more minutes, but I want to touch on being calorie aware. I know that at the fitness summit, that was sort of something Alan Aragon touched on is like, for a time, you're counting calories, you're doing your thing, you're learning your shit. Like your body's going to change in what it wants and how you're going to eat. And like, yeah, you might still have a burger or some pizza every once in a while, but once you lose that fat, your body's going to crave these things. You're going to know you feel better by eating those foods. So you can be a bit more intuitive about it, in what you're doing. But how do you, with clients that have achieved their goals, how do you keep coaching them, when it comes to nutrition and maybe like they're not counting as strictly?
So the first goal with every client I have is I say to them, look, I don't want to coach you forever. I want to give you the tools that you need so you can go off on your own. And if you want to stay with me afterwards, that's like totally cool. Awesome. I'm happy to have you, I'm happy to keep you. But ideally, I want you to be at a point where you can go and be confident in just doing it by yourself. So the way that I see calorie tracking is simply, it's like training wheels. It's just training wheels for the nutrition side of things. And eventually, after you've tracked your calories for, a year, half a year, whatever the case is, you'll be at a point where you'll be able to take those, the proverbial training wheels off, and you're going to be a lot more better at eating, quote unquote, intuitively, and guesstimating and not having to track all the time. So again, it's just a tool. It's a skill that's going to teach you about food, especially in an environment which encourages everyone to overeat. It's something that is going to help you in the long run. And then after that, if I've been training a client or coaching a client and they've been, tracking calories for a year or half a year, I'm confident now. I've achieved the body I wanted. I want to sort of start taking those, training wheels off, and I want to learn how to not track anymore. Then it's just simply about starting slow. So it may just be like, okay, maybe you just one day a week you don't track your calories, or maybe on the weekends you don't track your calories. So Monday to Friday you track, Saturday, Sunday you don't track. Just make some smarter choices in terms of the food you're going to eat, and then it's just like a teaching process, and then just slowly sort of easing them off that thing, off the tracking, basically.
Okay, cool, dude. I love that. I think that's something that is difficult for a lot of people to sort of do. Is you get so used to tracking and you just track forever. I mean, I personally do it because if I'm going to ask many of my clients to do it, I feel like I should still be doing it. Like I can intuitively eat pretty well. Like I know what I want. But depending on circumstances, I might track my breakfast if I'm out at a business conference and then know I have, a little bit more room to play for lunch or dinner.
I think people get so neurotic over it's like, oh, well, it's not normal. It's like, yeah, no shit, nothing's normal. Like the fact that you're, it's like the fact that you're communicating right now via Skype when you're all the way in New York and I'm all the way in here in London. That's not normal. Again, it's about you have the fact that there's so much high calorie foods and the environment is encouraging people to overeat. The fact that we're at a point in time where obesity, there's more people that are obese than people that are starving in the world. That isn't normal. So if you're going to talk about normal, you're going to have to look at the bigger picture, of the context of that phrase, or because words matter. You can't just say something and not expect it to have some sort of effect. So people just need to understand that when they say things like, well, this isn't normal and that isn't normal, it's like, yeah, okay, no shit, but what's the context? Because otherwise it doesn't mean anything. So, and calorie counting in today's environment is perfectly normal. If calorie counting means, if you're tracking your intake, means that it allows you to be healthy, it allows you to live long life, you can play with your kids, you're not going to have a heart attack when you're like 30 and die, dude, fuck it, track your calories, and who cares what someone else says?
Yeah. Do you, and do what is best for you at that time. I mean, I have a client I've been working with for a year. She's never tracked a single calorie. She's used my point system and she's seen amazing results and is less stressful. And then we've developed a thing where she was like, I really struggle on the weekends. So she eats less points during the week and she has a few more points on the weekend. And even she told me like, look, I eat the same things. I basically I'm not tracking my points, but I know exactly where I'm at the, during the day because I just eat the same stuff.
Exactly. And it's like, and that's why it's like people, I think we're getting to this point now where everyone's becoming so evidence-based that everyone's afraid to do anything. Just put a bit of thought and look at the person as an individual and not a goddamn PubMed study. It's like your client isn't a lab rat, it's like a human being, and the psychology of that person is so much more important than the physiology. So if that person, like you said, I've got clients who want to have cheat days. Cool. Obviously, it's at some parameters, so it's not like an all-out binge or whatever the case is. And again, you have to take into account that person's mental state. Like, is there someone who is going to benefit from having a cheat day, or is it someone who having that cheat day is only going to mess them up even more? So, that's why it gets a bit frustrating when everyone's like, well, that's not optimal, or this isn't optimal, or this study says this. It's like, yeah, well, guess what? The real world isn't a laboratory, and people are going to respond how they want to respond. So fuck your study. Yep.
Yeah. All right, dude. You got to realize everybody is different. And that's why, some people will have a great transformation in 4 months. Some people will be longer. Some people's bodies are fine with it. Some people's bodies are not. There's a whole lot of parameters. But you're right. It's not just a lab where everything is controlled in that. Adam, we're basically pretty much done here. And I want to keep talking because I'm staring at those eyes. and they're like drawing me in of your Skype picture. They're so sexy. I just want to like melt into them. You Zane looking motherfucker. But is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
Man, I really wish I had something really pithy to say right now. Like it's a work. Like any other time, I would have been able to say something really awesome, and right now it's like fuck. I would say just read more fucking books.
All right, I like it.
Yeah,
there we go. Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for coming back on the show. And guys, it won't be too long before we get him back on. I'll make sure Adam is a guest on more often than not. So Adam, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Step up and you gotta get it fitness. Host Rob at the moment and the quest is you gotta check it and wreck it. You're breaking personal records, and with the help of the guests you won't be guessing on the lessons. That's a +5 fierce. Got a low-key bamf right here. You wanna meet him, there's no better way to greet him than to strike a boss pose. Take a look into the mirror.